But yeah, no, I think the story was written well. That
Mm-hmm.
they showed a lot of a lot of things. The coincidence is one thing that was used a lot because there's a lot of coincidences that happen in the movie,
Yeah.
and then and overall I have no problem at all with the whole way the
Mm-hmm.
story went, except for a couple of things. One is they should have showed the audience not Hadoka. They should what Hodaka.
Hodaka.
Sorry, they should have showed the audience and not Hodaka that her body was disappearing little by little. I mean, we already understood that. We already knew that she was going to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't. They could have been a little more visual about it. Is what I think. They showed a very small amount on her left arm, and it went away afterwards. So you're led to believe that okay, it's like not that big a problem. But if they showed it a little more instead of just talking about it at the end where she takes off her robes and shows that she has no
Yeah.
torso. So if they'd shown it in some way, maybe just her checking her stomach or something like that, I think it would have added on to the film a little bit more because there you start understanding the seriousness of it earlier on.
I think it's the whole
But
link with the Weather Maiden and the sky. That whole, I think very early on in the movie, they show fish or water fish sort of hanging around on the ground or in various other places across the city. And
Yeah.
that was probably one way of them showing that, the link was breaking with the Weather Maiden and soon enough she will be lifted off. But they
no.
didn't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it probably feels like a second watch sort of thing, something that you would notice on a second watch.
No.
Uh, I would say more like I think what the thing is like. Would don't you think it has more of an impact if they show it later in like a bigger way, like they show it earlier? Because if we compare it to like characters vanishing, we think of like Spirit Away, right?
Yeah.
Where you see her vanishing right in the beginning of the
Yeah.
film, and you know like that she is and that's her mission. But here in this case, you're just thinking about how she's. You see the thunderclouds, you see the rain increasing as
Yeah.
she's helping people. You see the situation get worse, so you know something is coming. Like, and then you realize that she kind of is like sacrificing herself for the cause, which
Yeah.
is the point of the film. And like in the end, I think like we like the audience and Hodaka like realizes the same thing at the same time, like gets the same impact.
No, we don't though. That's what I'm saying. We don't have the impact the same time that Hodaka does.
No,
We
but
we
like
get that
her
impact a lot
removing her,
earlier.
but her removing her robes and
Oh,
showing
that
the
yeah,
whole,
yeah.
whole body, that's a bigger impact than showing the small thing,
Yeah.
right? That's what
I
I'm saying.
still think if they'd shown parts of her arms or
Mm-hmm.
legs disappearing, and then she checks something like a part of her stomach disappearing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they reveal that the whole thing, it would have made it a lot more dire because the way they were showing it, it was like small this thing, right? They only showed her arm once.
Yeah.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying they should have shown the body, the rope part in any other way. I'm saying they should have given more hints and clues as to what was happening and how much was disappearing. Because that way, when we actually see the robes being taken off, we're like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, that's a lot more than I expected. I thought it was only here, but it's everywhere. But
But you still said holy shit when you
yeah,
saw it,
but
right?
then that's because I noticed it early on, and I was like, why aren't they showing it? It must like I don't know how bad it is. So when
Yeah.
when the scene happened, I wasn't thinking holy shit as much as I was like, okay, they showed
Okay,
it.
I see.
So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
took away from that scene. I
yeah.
wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
surprised at that scene, but then she was hiding it so much, you knew something bad had happened. So if they'd
Yeah,
shown it instead of her hiding it, then you'd be settled in that false sense of security. Like yes, it's okay. It's just an arm. Something's happening. It can be
Yeah.
fixed. And then they show the whole thing. That time you're shocked. You're like, wow, okay, I
uh,
didn't expect that. But in the way they showed it, I was like, oh, I could make
yeah.
sense.
I understand your point. Yeah, it makes more sense now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing. And the second thing that I had a problem with was I don't remember. Hold on. What was I thought of my first point so much I forgot my second point. Yeah, the story gave them what gave back the protagonists whatever they wanted a little too easily. And this is not a in universe problem. It's just a problem I have with the way the story was being told, which is you have the high risk for
Yeah.
Hina. She takes the high risk, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a similar type of high risk for this guy Hodaka.
I
Hmm.
So it's more of you. I mean, we know that he's going to go to the shrine and do something to try saving her, but we have no idea of the consequences of if it doesn't work out.
Well, the consequences are that she'll never come back. She'll never return, right?
Yeah, but are there any consequences to him?
So no, so he personally doesn't have any. He's just in love, right? And he
Yeah,
just
so
wants
that's
her
what.
back.
Yes,
He has his issues, like the police are behind him, like because he's like he ran away from his hometown, and in the end he gets sent back there to complete his schooling and all that. He lives in like a manga cafe in the beginning. Like
yeah,
he still has his own problems, like trying to live here illegally, so to say, as a student, and like then he gets caught with a gun and everything. So he still has his own issues, but like I don't think, since the story is about like her sacrificing herself and him like trying to save her, I think it's more about that than him having bad consequences, because she's the one who's having the bad consequences. He's like the savior, it's like it's like a Cinderella story, or like like the classic Disney fairy tales.
yeah, but I didn't like that aspect so much at all, and I think
Hmm.
it's a story problem because he could have tackled it in different ways. He could have made it harder for him to bring her back. So even if you look at as you said, comparison to Kimi no Nawa, in Kimi
Yeah.
no Nawa, Taki had to go through a whole lot of shit just to reach the spot where he could have saved her, and then go through a whole lot of shit afterwards again to eventually possibly meet her.
Hmm.
But here he just goes to the same shrine, prays to the same god, and suddenly they're just back. So that, that emotional scene building up to getting the other person back was not as well done. It's still good. I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm saying it wasn't as well thought of as it was in Kimi no Nawa, because Kimi no Nawa really made your heart. Just one sec, my
Hmm.
dog is whining a little too much. Can you hear him?
Yeah,
I can hear
slightly.
something, but it's okay.
Hopes no.
He'll stop.
Yeah.
I think I agree. Like I agree with that part. Like because with all this build up and everything that happened in the last half of Kimi no Na, the ending like just hits you, right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think the ending for Tenkinoko wasn't as much as of a hit. Like it didn't like hurt you, in that way. It didn't like make you weep. But
Yeah.
it was emotional. But yeah, I agree. It didn't have that same impact as Kimi
Oh,
no Na, of course.
third point.
huh.
Yeah.
That fucker.
What
That
did he
fucker
do?
gave such a proper closure for this movie where they both meet and they're like, it's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And he just left us hanging with Kimi no Nawa. He's just,
Oh,
I'm
I have
sorry,
something to
your
say
name
about that.
is, and then I'm just sitting there like, hey, hey, your name is what? Huh? What is your name?